Agitorium nostrum in nomine Domini. Pope Pius XI on atheistic communism, 1937. What's the name of the encyclical? We left off on Bishop Williamson's chart. We're looking at the back side. We just saw paragraph 58. Communism is intrinsically evil. No collaboration is possible. And then the communist tactic is to establish dialogue. Dialogue is their big thing. You dialogue and dialogue and dialogue to death. And what they do is get their opponent to agree on some things and then eventually win the opponent to their side through dialogue and practical agreements. So Rome does that. Rome is a perfect, they follow the modernist Rome, the perfect communist system. Dialogue, dialogue, dialogue. Focus on the practical things. We'll give you recognition. We'll give you canonical status. We'll give you permissions. We'll give you jurisdictions. And once you start saying yes to that, they get you and they put you in a position of silence on doctrine. And if you can't speak doctrine anymore, you become neutralized, to put it politely. So, communism is intrinsically what?
Evil.
Is collaboration possible with them?
No.
You don't collaborate with them. No. Remedy 59, Anthony?
Communism is a devil which only prayer and penance can drive out.
Okay, next section 4. Persons to apply church doctrine. The clergy, laity, the state. The clergy first. The importance of the clergy. 60, Anthony?
To apply these remedies, Jesus' frontline agents are his priests.
Repeat.
To apply these remedies, Jesus' frontline agents are his priests.
Repeat, everybody.
To apply these remedies, Jesus' frontline agents are his priests.
Yes, so the front line in this war are priests. The importance of the priesthood. The importance of the priesthood. We will never understand how seriously important is just one priest, one good priest. And imagine an army of priests. Vladimir Lenin, the communist founder, one of them, he said, give me 10 men like St. Francis of Assisi and I'll take over the world. That is, men totally consecrated to God and will give everything for him. Clergy, the importance, clergy, their apostolate, first workers, 61, brother.
I don't think brother has.
I don't have any of this.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right, because you're in apologetics. Gabriel?
Priests must today especially minister to working men and the poor.
Yeah, so don't neglect the working men. That's the average Joe, six-pack working father of a family. Take care of them. Give them guidance. Give them guidance. These are the backbone of any nation, really. The working men. They are the best. They are the best of the men. Because they're family men usually. They love their wives. They love their children. They want the best for their country. And this is really the backbone of any country is the good, honest, hard-working men. And the
poor.
Don't neglect the poor. Don't neglect the poor. The apostolate, the priority, 62, Gabriel.
The apostolate of winning back the laboring masses must have top priority.
Yes, the apostolate of winning back the laboring masses. How do you win them back? Well, Saint Anthony Mary Claret, he would have the children, he would pass out to the children little holy cards. And on the back of the holy cards would be some truths. You have one soul to save. You will either be in heaven or hell. Hell is eternal. We are made for the glory and the happiness with God, things like that. And the kids would bring them home, share them with their parents, and the father would come home, see these cards on the table, start thinking, and get back to confession. That's what he did. St. Francis de Sales also passed out little brochures and so forth. So those are ways to reach the working class. And when they're at Mass, they hear the Catholic truths, they go to confession, retreats, day of recollections if they can make it. I know a lot of good working men make a retreat every year. They try to do a retreat every year, or every other year, an Ignatian retreat. Okay, so brother, you'll be okay on the third floor there?
Yes, sir.
The means of the clergy applying the doctrine. 63, Gabriel.
The priest's own example of selfless poverty will do the most good.
Yes, so the example of priests, selfless poverty. Their heart shouldn't be on worldly gain, but on souls. Okay, persons to apply church doctrine. Laity now, the laity, Catholic action. Firstly, soldiers, 64, Michael.
The laity of Catholic action must form soldiers of Christ for society.
Yes, so publications are powerful, like the Recusant, the Catacombs, the Catholic Trumpet. Those are the great vessels today, reaching souls, proclaiming loudly the truth. Catholic Action Contact, 65, Michael.
Individuals of Catholic action will be the priest's liaison with the working classes.
Yeah, so the priests aren't going to be out in the working field. They're going to be taking care of the souls. But those in the working field have the contacts. And the men in the working field should be apostolic. At least give the good example. Don't join in filthy talk. And those interested, bring them to the faith. Give them good websites to look at and to hear. Catholic Action Propagator, 66.
And Catholic action as a whole will propagate Christian social principles.
Yes. So in many parishes we used to have for the children, the Eucharistic Crusade, where every day they fill out some sacrifice for our Lord, some prayer charts, and they give that to our Lord. The Eucharistic Crusade, and then for the adults, there's the Legion of Mary, which is very good. There's also the League of Christ the King, which Hugh Akins used to spearhead, and he did a great job in those days. And they would have conferences and do apostolic action, protest filthy, bad movies that were blasphemous, bad movies, and so forth. All right. Others, laity, others, all groups, 67, Anthony.
We likewise encourage all other groups working alongside Catholic action.
Evangelize, 68.
Let Catholics in all trades, groups, and professions spread Catholic principles.
Yes. So you get talking with your friends, you get, spread the Catholic principles without sounding preachy, but letting others know out of love for Christ. You talk about what you love. Others everywhere, 69.
Even where the state has intervened, the Catholic spirit is still necessary.
The workers, 70.
Especially working men must bring fellow workers back to Mother Church.
Yes. 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 So the influence of good friends and good men can lead others to confession, lead them back to tradition. Unity of Catholics, 71.
Let Catholics unite. Let no one dare help radicals by dividing Catholics.
Yes, so unite the clans. Here it is, unite the clans, but in the Catholic faith. This is 1937, so long before, not too long before Vatican II, but long enough where there was only traditional Catholics. Unite the clans in the real Catholic faith of tradition. And no compromise with Vatican II and the new Mass, in our case anyway. Unity of others, 72.
And in this war against God, let all believers in God collaborate on our side.
And then duties of the state. Persons to apply church doctrine. The state principle. Help the church, 73. Gabriel.
The state is duty bound to help the church in this, her spiritual battle.
Self-defense, 74.
For if God is wiped out, all authority collapses, all states are destroyed.
Direction. The poor and the rich, 75.
So the state must ensure employment and control unjust capitalists.
Yes, so the state, without being communist, just must coach that it's easy for an average working man to support his family without having the wife to work. Direction. Leaders, 76.
Its employees, politicians, rich men, must all seek first the common good.
Church relations, freedom, 77.
Also, the state must leave the church full freedom to fulfill her mission.
Yes, don't interfere with the church. And the state has no right to do that. Necessity, 78.
For to fight communism with mere politics or economics is bound to fail.
The advantage, 79.
Whereas to help the church secure heaven guarantees prosperity on earth.
Yeah, so the Catholic way of life and the Catholic life and the commandments and laws of the church bring prosperity. They bring prosperity. For example, Catholic families have children. Children are the workforce, the backbone for tomorrow. And many demographic people say the economy is heading for a sudden crash because there's not the children to be the workforce for the next generation. There's not enough children. So they have to bring in floods of Muslims into Europe. And right now there are more British funerals than births. In Italy, there are more funerals than births because of contraception and birth control and abortion. And Mexico is probably heading that way quick. Americans, there should be a lot more births, but we still have a lot of births, thank God. But there's a lot of abortions as well. So in a Catholic system, there's no abortion, no birth control. There's an abundance of children, and if it's in a healthy, good family, they're raised to be virtuous, self-sacrificing, and it promises a prosperous future. And enough children to look after the old, enough children to look after orphan children, religious orders, etc. It's always good. It's prosperous. In a Catholic system, it's prosperous. Communism brings death and economic failure, by the way, which they don't like to admit, but it does. Conclusion, St. Joseph, 81, Michael.
Under St. Joseph's protection, we place the church's battle with communism.
Oh, and communists, go back up to paragraph 80,
As for communists, let them abandon their present path to universal ruin.
Yes. And then given with faith and with our blessing, given at Rome, March 19th, 1937. All right, let's jump into the encyclical itself. Divini Redemptoris, Atheistic Communism in the Light of the Social Teaching of the Church. Preface, number 1. Anthony.
The promise of a Redeemer brightens the first page of the history of mankind, and the confident hope aroused by this promise softened the keen regret for a paradise which had been lost. It was this hope that accompanied the human race on its weary journey, until in the fullness of time the expected Savior came to begin a new universal civilization, the Christian civilization, far superior even to that which is up to this time, had been laboriously achieved by certain more privileged nations.
Okay. What a powerful first paragraph, isn't it? Christ has come and he set a whole new world order on him, on Christ the King. He's the cornerstone. And notice he goes right back to Adam and Eve. Right? So, right on the first paragraph, he refutes evolution. He refutes all these false political ideologies. Number 2.
Nevertheless, the struggle between good and evil remained in the world as a sad legacy of the original fall. Nor has the ancient tempter ever ceased to deceive mankind with false promises. It is on this account that one convulsion following upon another has marked the passage of the centuries, down to the revolution of our own days. This modern revolution, it may be said, has actually broken out or threatens everywhere, and it exceeds in amplitude and violence anything yet experienced in the preceding persecutions launched against the church. Entire peoples find themselves in danger of falling back into barbarism, worse than that which oppressed the greater part of the world at the coming of the Redeemer.
And people would say today, well, we're not barbaric. We're civilized. So how would you show such a deluded person we are barbaric?
We kill our babies.
We kill them. And Putin said publicly, Americans even eat them. They eat their children and they're dead. So they're putting the food somewhere. McDonald's, KFC.
It's not even that the babies are killed, it's that people think that's normal.
Yes. It's frightening, yeah. Acceptable. And it's become, for many women, another birth control. Just another birth control. Well, you do it after. You kill them. And England just passed, this past month, England just passed abortion till birth. What a horrible thing. So we are more barbaric than any other age. Okay. Relapse into barbarism, far worse than that which oppressed the greater part of the human race before the coming of the Redeemer. Now, this booklet, the wording is slightly different, but it's the same. 3. So, looking at Bishop Williamson's chart, number 2, but the devil's continual revolutions threaten worse than ever. 3, its aim. 3.
This all too imminent danger, venerable brethren, as you have already surmised, is Bolshevistic and atheistic communism, which aims at upsetting the social order and at undermining the very foundations of Christian civilization.
Yeah, this one reads, it is the Bolshevist communism, atheistic communism, the peculiar aim of which is to tear up the social order by the roots and subvert the very foundations of Christian civilization. So number 3, Bishop's chart. Michael?
Neo-Bolshevism aims to tear up Christian civilization by the very roots.
Yeah, so communism is attacking the very roots of the natural order and the supernatural order. It's satanic. It truly is. All right, 1, the attitude of the church towards communism. So we're looking at paragraph 4. Communism in the church. In the past, Pope Pius IX, Leo XIII, and then Pius XI. Read on, Gabriel.
Previous condemnations. In the face of such a threat, the Catholic Church could not and does not remain silent. This apostolic see, above all, has now refrained from raising its voice for... What does I mean here?
I think it just means it. I think it's a typo.
Oh.
I think.
For it knows that its proper and special mission is to defend truth, justice, and all those eternal values which communism ignores or attacks. Ever since the days when groups of quote-unquote intellectuals were formed in an arrogant attempt to free civilization from the bonds of morality and religion, our predecessors overtly and explicitly drew the attention of the world to the consequences of the de-Christianization of human society. With reference to communism, our venerable predecessor, Pius IX of holy memory, as early as 1846, pronounced a solemn condemnation, which he confirmed in the words of the syllabus directed against, quote, that infamous doctrine of so-called communism, which is absolutely contrary to the natural law itself, and if once adopted, would utterly destroy the rights, property, and possessions of all men, and even society itself. End quote.
Okay, who said that?
Pope Pius IX.
In what document?
The Syllabus of Errors.
Yeah, very, very serious here. So he was right on it, Pius IX, condemning communism in its first sprouting. Later
on, another of our predecessors, the immortal Leo XIII, in his encyclical Quod Apostolici Muneris, defined communism as, quote, the fatal plague which insinuates itself into the very marrow of human society only to bring about its ruin, end quote. With clear intuition, he pointed out that the atheistic movements existing among the masses of the machine age had their origin in that school of philosophy which for centuries had sought to divorce science from the life of the faith and of the church.
Yes. Wow. Hard-hitting first paragraphs. Wonderful. Paragraph 5, Acts of the Present Pontificate. Number 5. Read on, Michael.
During our pontificate, we too have frequently and with urgent insistence denounced the current trend to atheism, which is alarmingly on the increase. In 1924, when our relief mission returned from the Soviet Union, we condemned communism in a special allocution, which we addressed to the whole world. In our encyclicals, Miserentissimus Redemptor, Quadragesimo Anno, Caritate Christi, Acerba animi, Delectissima nobis, we raised a solemn protest against the persecutions unleashed in Russia, in Mexico, and now in Spain.
All right, so that's where the revolutions were hot and shedding a lot of blood. Russia, of course, under Vladimir Lenin and Stalin especially. Stalin set up thousands of gulags. Some of them were on islands, and the people were forced to cannibalism in some places. It was just awful. Mexico, of course, with the great rising up of the Cristeros against the Freemasonic government, imposing communist ideas. And in Spain, the great 1936 to 39, the great Franco leading the Catholic resistance against communism, trying to take over Spain. So the Pope sees it all over the world, and he's calling out the evil of communism. Go on.
Our two allocutions of last year, the first on the occasion of the opening of the International Catholic Press Exposition, and the second during our audience to the Spanish refugees, along with our message of last Christmas, have invoked a worldwide echo which is not yet spent. In fact, the most persistent enemies of the Church, who from Moscow are directing the struggle against Christian civilization, themselves bear witness by their unceasing attacks in word and act that even in this hour, the papacy has continued faithfully to protect the sanctuary of the Christian religion, and that it has called public attention to the perils of communism more frequently and more effectively than any other public authority on earth.
Yeah, so he directs the most bitter enemies of the church who direct from Moscow this warfare against Christian civilization. So Moscow, he says, is one of the headquarters, which it was, and it wasn't so much Russians, but it was synagogue of Satan's, who had Jewish names, and they changed them to Russian names to hide themselves, to cloak themselves. And then we know now who funded the Bolshevik Revolution financially.
The U.S.
The U.S. out of Wall Street. The B'nai B'rith and the Judeo-Masons from Wall Street. They funded it and helped plan it. So our Virgin Mother of Fatima, in 1917, she was right there. Right before the Bolshevik Revolution, she was appearing. May, June, July, August, September, October. October Revolution was 1917. And that began a bloodbath, a slaughterhouse in Russia, Spain, Mexico. And if there wasn't bloodbaths in other countries, it's because, one, they were still Catholic, like Italy, or two, they were already imbibing communist ideas. The need of another solemn pronouncement. 6. Anthony?
To our great satisfaction, venerable brethren, you have, by means of individual and even joint pastoral letters, accurately transmitted and explained to the faithful these admonitions. Yet despite our frequent and paternal warnings, the peril only grows greater from day to day, because of the pressure exerted by clever agitators. Therefore, we believe it to be our duty to raise our voice once more in a still more solemn missive. In accord with the tradition of this apostolic see, the teacher of truth, and in accord with the desire of the whole Catholic world, which makes the appearance of such a document but natural. We trust that the echo of our voice will reach every mind free from prejudice, and every heart sincerely desirous of the good of mankind.
Okay, so what's he saying? It's the duty of the Apostolic See to raise its voice again to condemn this error. This is what the Pope should be doing with modernism, with ecumenism, with the new Mass, with Vatican II. They should be condemning these things publicly. They should be condemning organ donation, where it involves vital organs. They should be condemning abortion, birth control, euthanasia, divorce. And they're silent. They're worried about blessing ice cubes. And just recently, this past week, they have old footage and pictures of Pope Leo XIV as a priest on his knees worshiping Pachamama, this pagan idol in South America. He was in Peru, and it shows all these people bowing down to this stupid statue of Pachamama, and he's there on his knees also. So that's coming out. So he was a priest at the time, so he has to refute that. He has to reject that publicly. He really has a duty to do that. So, but you see how healthy this is? This is the Pope doing his duty. And he's praising his bishops. Top of paragraph 6, even though the wording in this one is different. In spite of all this fatherly advice and warning, which you, venerable brethren, bishops, have passed on to your people in individual and joint pastoral letters, the danger grows. So he's praising the bishops for speaking out against communism in their dioceses, which is their duty, right? So imagine if all these bishops work together with a good pope, condemning Vatican II, the new Mass, restoring tradition. It'd be powerful. There certainly would be martyrs. The Pope would probably be the first martyr. But for us Catholics, big deal. That's part for the course. Martyrdom is part of our history. Martyrdom is part of the ballgame. Right? If you play hockey, you're going to get bruised. You're going to get cut. If you wrestle, you're most likely going to get a black eye and bruised and get injured. In most physical contact sports, you play football, you're going to get bruised up. So you become Catholic, persecution and martyrdom are just part of life. So we say with Tertullian to the modern governments and to all the modern false ideologies, go ahead, cut us down. Go ahead, mow us, enchain us, imprison us, behead us. Go ahead, make us bleed. Go ahead, mow us down. For the more you mow us down, the more we grow. The more you cut us up, the more we spread. For the blood of martyrs is the
Seed of faith.
is the seed of Christians. The blood of martyrs is the seed of more Catholics. It will spread. The faith spreads because of martyrs. So, paragraph 6, yet the danger continues to grow, so we must speak out again. So the Pope doing his duty, I mean, wow, it would be so great to have a Pope doing his duty. Instead of all bending down to please the stupid modern world, the godless modern world, the atheistic modern world. See, this is a Pope still doing his duty. And Pius XI, he's not canonized and he wasn't perfect. He made mistakes. But he was still doctrinally a good Pope, right? He still upheld the good doctrine. Paragraph 7, read on.
Hence, we wish to expose once more in a brief synthesis the principles of atheistic communism, as they are manifested chiefly in Bolshevism. We wish also to indicate its method of action, and to contrast with its false principles the clear doctrine of the Church.
Okay, first we're going to show the principles, then the practical application, the action, the principles and actions of communism. This is how we're going to approach it. Condemn their false ideas, condemn their false actions. Go on.
In order to inculcate anew, and with greater insistence, the means by which Christian civilization, the true civitas humana, can be saved from the satanic scourge, and not merely saved, but better developed for the well-being of human society.
So by which true Christian civilization can grow, the Catholic city. All right, so now we come to part 2, doctrine and fruits of communism. First, doctrine, a false ideal. Gabriel?
The communism of today, more emphatically than similar movements in the past, conceals in itself a false messianic idea.
Okay, stop. This one interprets, the communism of our day offers to the poor a counterfeit kind of salvation. So a false paradise. Go on.
A pseudo-ideal of justice, of equality and fraternity and labor impregnates all its doctrine and activity with a deceptive mysticism, which communicates a zealous and contagious enthusiasm to the multitudes entrapped by delusive promises. This is especially true in an age like ours, when unusual misery has resulted from the unequal distribution of the goods of this world. This pseudo-ideal is even boastfully advanced as if it were responsible for a certain economic progress. As a matter of fact, when such progress is at all real, its true causes are quite different, as for instance, the intensification of industrialism in countries which were formerly almost without it, the exploitation of immense natural resources, and the use of the most brutal methods to ensure the achievement of gigantic projects with a minimum of expense.
Yeah, so he's talking about the abuses in especially the factories, which are huge. They produce a lot, but they require children working and inhuman hours. So there were a lot of abuses in these times. This is the Industrial Revolution age. Late 1800s. In England especially, it was very bad. So that's why you had all these labor unions begging for don't put the children in the workplace. And then give us humane hours to work and humane and clean areas to work. Right? Because where they were working was filthy. The toilets probably were gross, and so the Pope is talking about this. They're losing their faith. The people are embracing error. So we'll pick up next time. Adiutorium nostrum in nomine Domini.